one is, the chefy term is called julienne, but what it is really is thinly slicing as thin as you can. Right? Don't kill yourself if you can't do it too thin. I mean, or you can just leave it whole slices like this, it's fine, right? But if you want a stronger taste of the ginger, what you would do is get a finer chop, meaning to say, that's what I mean by julienne, which is like those really fine matchsticks, right? But and that will give you a very strong ginger taste, right? But if you slice it just like this, all right, all in one layer, it's not so spicy. So when I say you want a stronger ginger taste, meaning to say if you want it spicy, right, you would do a julienne rather than just a slice like this, right? Julienne simply means this, right? So after slicing it in, you will go run through your knife like this, and then you get like finer matchsticks, all right? But I'm not going to bother with that. Yeah, so if for example you have a small knob of ginger and you want it to be strong, that means you want to max out the flavor as much as possible, then you do that. But if you have a lot of ginger and you want to use more, then I won't bother chopping it this finely, because it can get too spicy if you used a lot of ginger and you julienne it. It's like a double whammy, right? So I have enough ginger for now, so I'm just going to leave it as thin slices. Now, prepping the fish, all you need is a pair of good kitchen shears. Alright, your supermarket should have gutted the fish for you. So what you are left with is a very clean piece like this, but it also comes with all the fins, which can get a bit messy, right? So what I like to do is simply with a pair of shears, cut through the fins like this. And kitchen shears are generally quite sharp, so they will go through the fins quite easily, alright? But of course, sometimes with a bit of force, right? So remove those fins, alright? Pull up the I don't know what is the dorsal fin or whatever you call it, and again go at it with the shears, alright? It looks neater that way as well. This comes off quite easily also. And the good thing about it is you make it, basically dimensions are smaller when you remove all this, and it fits into your steamer more easily, especially if you have a smaller steamer, right? So you remove all that here as well. And sometimes the fishmonger may not have done such a very good job at scaling it, alright? So what I like to do is always scale it again, by which I mean with a sharp knife, alright? And it cannot be this sort of knife, right? Because it's quite dangerous if somehow I feel there's less control. Even though it looks a bit scarier with a bigger knife, I feel I have better control with a larger knife. And you hold the fish like this, and you just take a knife and just scrape at the top, especially at the front of the head. That's where the fishmonger, sometimes they get a bit lazy, they don't do it properly, right? So I would focus more a lot on here and the end. Here they would have done usually okay lah, right? But here and along the sides here, so you see, as you can feel a bit of resistance, and you know that there's scale still attached. So you just take a knife and basically just rub it, scrape it, all right? And they make eating quite unpleasant if you have the scales. All right, so at the head especially, right? So I will take this and like really scrape. You can use the back of the knife, but sometimes if it's sharper, it's more precise. Sometimes it doesn't. What you're doing is basically trying to hook the scale and yank it off. So if you use the blunt side, the dull side, sometimes it doesn't do a very good job. So I think it's more effective to use the sharper side, okay? And scales will fly. And then when you wash the fish, then you see how much scale was actually attached to it. You can feel it, yeah. So that's all when it comes to prepping the outside of the fish, right? Now, the inside of the fish, they would have gutted it, but what they would not have done is actually remove this veiny looking thing. This in here, you can see the coagulated blood. It adds a very fishy, not very nice taste. So what I like to do is with a knife, you just run your knife against it, all right? and then you just run it in running water and basically pull out all that vessels, blood vessels. It makes for a cleaner taste at the end, because sometimes the blood will seep into the gravy, whatever, if you're steaming it, and it's not very pleasant. So I'm just yanking out whatever I can, and then it should look like a nicer paler pink rather than the blood looking crap. Alright. Even right now, if there's a clean, I can smell, and that fishiness comes from that blood, you know. Alright, so that's our fish all done. Quite simple. Alright, it's ready to be steamed. I'm going to use a few different types of sauces in here. But I will tell you which of these are actually optional. They're not absolutely a must. Alright, what I would say would be a must are, number one, oyster sauce, or what's left of it. Lee Kum Kee is the brand that people usually use. Alright, it looks like this. Alright, or at least it's a bit more expensive one, I'm told. Okay, this is the one that you would commonly use. Alright, I use this a lot. Alright, so you can use this, you can use that, no problem, but as long as it says oyster sauce. Alright, so I will use about 2 tablespoons. Now the thing about oyster sauce is that it is both salty and sweet. And why is that? Is because, as much as I hate to admit it, oyster sauce has MSG. That is why everything that you add oyster sauce to somehow tastes better. It's because of the MSG. Alright, so you don't want it too much. It's not supposed to be the dominant flavor. The dominant flavor is actually supposed to be soy sauce. Soy sauce is just salty, right? So this will be the dominant flavor, not too much of the oyster sauce. So you put this, I would say about another 2 tablespoons dark soy sauce. Now, sometimes they call it cooking caramel, all right? And what it is basically dark soy sauce, but more on the sweeter side rather than on the salty side. So we usually add this basically to lend a darker color to whatever dish. In terms of flavor, not so much, all right, but it's more as a coloring, okay, a darker dye if you like. And the fourth one is sesame oil. Some people don't mind the flavor, some people hate the flavor. I love the flavor, so I add sometimes quite a bit of it, all right, but it's entirely up to you, okay? And however much you like, don't add too much, because sometimes it can taste quite funky if you add too much. Now, what is optional is a bit of Shaoxing rice wine. This basically adds a nicer aroma, because fish, of course, is fishy, right? So if you add a bit of rice wine, not too much, because otherwise it will taste like confinement food, right? And I would add a little bit of this, what they call apple soy sauce, all right? It adds a bit of sweetness also, because this soy sauce is not like that other Lloyd soy sauce, which is just salty. This is a bit salty and sweet. So at the end of the day, it's all about like balancing sweet and salty, because sweet in and by itself is not going to be nice. So having done that, it's just a question of adding water to dilute it. So you just add water, and you just stir it. All right, just stir it, and then that's it, ready for the fish. Right? Any steam proof or oven proof dish will be fine. So what I do is, this fish that is going to go into the steamer, all right, I would lay a couple of the pieces of the ginger on the base, all right. This is to flavor the underside of the fish, and then lay the fish on the top and more ginger on the top, and don't forget to put some ginger on the inside, because the inside is where it's the most fishy. Okay, so I'll put it inside, just chuck it in and around, and that's it. And once you're done with that, what you need to do is just pour the sauce. You can taste it if you like, but I would say this also, because the whole steaming process would somehow, a bit of the condensation water would end up in the dish itself. So if you make it just nice, sometimes what you end up with is a gravy which is too diluted. And then it goes straight into the steamer. Okay, so I'm putting the fish onto the steamer, and you can see I'm having the boil on a low simmer, right, rather than a full fiery boil. All right, and from the point that you put in, that means you have to wait till the water comes to a boil, and then you start timing. And I usually put in for about 20 minutes. All right, for a fish this size or even larger, I think 20 minutes is about fine. But I always thought that you could never overcook fish, but as it turned out, you can. All right, so I would say 20 minutes will be just nice, so that the fish won't dry out. All right, not that it's completely inedible if it dries out. It's still quite. I mean, fish is still fish after all, right? Not like chicken breast where if it's overcooked, then it really gets really stringy. All right. So 20 minutes will start from now. So coriander, I usually like to put a lot more than this, but I'm a bit lazy to clean and wash more. All right. So what I do is leaves and stem, and I will just scatter it from the top, on the top, and I will then put it back on the steamer for about what? Something like 10 seconds, 10-15 seconds. What you're doing is simply to wilt the coriander just a little bit and distribute the aroma for 15 seconds or so. Okay, it goes back on top. There you go. So 15 seconds and then it's ready to serve.